Hello and welcome, everybody. It is Thursday night, so it is time once again for the Tank Show, where we spend some time acquiring new knowledge. Appreciate the send over with that hashtag donkey there. Great to see y'all showing up. Great to have everybody here. What we're doing this week is, since I spent a good 40 minutes talking on last week's subject and we didn't really get through all of the questions, we're going to leave it a little more open for questions this week. Questions and comments, if you have any, feel free to throw them in the chat. If you'll put the @ symbol in front of Fisher and Fever, that helps to highlight on my screen, and we can address those live on the air for the next hour. We'll talk a little bit about what we've had going on in our fish rooms, and we'd be happy to hear about what you all have had going on at home as well. And of course, answer any questions and help anybody that we possibly can. Ed, how have you been doing?
Pretty good. Today I was out in the sun a little too long. As you can see, I got a little bit of a sunburn, but I got to enjoy the sun while I can.
I think the color matches.
You can definitely tell where I had my sunglasses on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's good. It's nice to get some relaxation time while you can. I have had a fun time. It started with taking down the 125 gallon out of here. I'm looking over here because that's where it was, and usually I had the bishers right there to look at. But I was going to move a bunch of tanks out of this room anyways, and we're kind of moving the kids' rooms around and my office and adjusting things here at the house. And so when the 125 gallons started leaking day before yesterday, Mrs. Fever noticed water in the floor, and there's about that much out of the 125. So I was like, we'll just drain it and move the fish, and that started the whole process. So got the 125 broken down. It's just stood up, and it's going to be going to storage, and we'll reseal it probably once we get moved. I don't think I'm going to mess with it right now.
Yeah,
which it's weird because I don't know if when we were doing it, I accidentally grabbed the wrong tube of silicone or what happened, because I've not had one where the silicone just failed before. I mean, it's only been about, 8 months to a year since that one was sealed. I've got several other tanks, like the double stack 75 next to me. That system, we resealed it well before that, and it's still holding just fine. But the silicone in that one was literally, you can just grab it and pull it off. It's just not adhered anymore. So Steel Sling, I said, but that was fun. Yeah, that is always an interesting time when you have a big tank that starts leaking. Thankfully it didn't blow out. That's, I know, all of our worst nightmares, having a tank, especially a larger one, blow a seam and just spray water everywhere. I was fortunate for that. But that did kind of set in motion like a 24-hour fish tank-a-thon moving fun event. It's been interesting. I got that one broken down and moved. I moved a 75 gallon out of here. Killer Kitty 08 with good questions. So does that make you paranoid about tanks? It does. Honestly, it makes me not as paranoid about tanks as it does paranoid about the batch of silicone that I bought. Because when I bought that silicone, I bought an entire case of it because I've got a lot of sealing that needs done. And I'm trying to remember back if I used that part of that batch on that specific tank or not. But it does make me very paranoid about the silicone. So it makes me kind of want to err on the side of just spending a little bit more money and getting the black Aquarium silicone and just using that. And I mean, it does look a little bit better. That's a matter of personal opinion, but I find that it looks a little bit better. Hey, Fish Stream's good to see you. So we may go with that in the future, and I will most definitely, I'm definitely paranoid about that silicone in terms of the 220 gallon that I have to reseal. That's just been sitting since Ed was kind enough to help me haul it to the house from my storage unit some time ago. That's the most paranoid part of it, I think, is sitting there. E90 Austin says from Knoxville, glad to have you here. Always awesome to see some local people. I appreciate you checking us out. I'm really paranoid on that. So I'm definitely, when it comes to the 220 gallon, when I reseal that and rebuild the trim on it, definitely going to just break down, spend the extra money, buy the black aquarium silicone, and use that. I could get the not black aquarium silicone, but if I'm going to pay the premium for aquarium silicone, I'm going to go with the black one. See a lot of the hashtag donkeys rolling in. Appreciate y'all coming over, and I appreciate the send over from good old John and Lisa at KG Tropicals, keepfishkeeping.com.
I need to watch their stream and see what the donkey story is about.
I do too. Normally I've got it tuned in on my phone, but I tried to catch a couple hours before the show just because I was beat. I'm still beat. I'm a little bit dragging. I'm dragging a little bit, as some of you all can tell, but we're going to get through it. We're going to have a good time. Pegasus Serena using her member super chat. Been a member for 18 months now. Says, hi, would a brief on-cam baby hello be possible? Yeah, we could definitely make that happen. Give me just a minute here, and we'll get Ed talking about something, and I'll see if I can send you over a link to briefly show off the new baby, the newest member of the Fish Fam. Tim Kendrick, what's going on? Says, hey, guys, been a long time. Hope you're well. James, I see the beard is back. Good to see you, Ed. It is. It's back for now. It's good to see you, Tim. It has been a while, but I understand life happens to us all, and sometimes people come and they go, and then they come back, and sometimes they just don't come back. So we're glad you came back, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, where was I? Did the 125, did the 75 gallon that was in here. I got the double stack 75s drained, and the fish moved out of there. And then the 13 gallon widescreen Project Piaba tank, I got it drained out. It's still sitting on the desk, which is what I'm looking at. You see the camera shake when I move it there. So that needs to go out. And then I just have the 110 gallon behind me that needs to be drained and fish moved and that type of stuff. And that one as well is going to sit dry for the moment as we are working towards getting moved. I don't want to move it into the new office, set it up, and then have to drain it in the not too distant future, which is awesome that it is looking like the not too distant future before we get moved and get on to the next chapter in the Fish Room Fever saga. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
When's I was not saying when. Where are you storing your fish as you do this? Like all those Weisher?
So I've got the Weishers went into the 100 gallon because I've got it empty at the moment. The Weishers went into there, and I've got various other tanks that have just kind of had very minimal stocking in them. The Exodons that were in the double stack 75, I moved into the 75 because that 75 only had a single axolotl in it. So that axolotl went into a 20 that I already had set up. So it's been a lot of musical tanks with the fish, but everybody's doing well. Everybody's happy. And then this room will be emptied, and then we can move my youngest one into this room, and then move the other one from the other office, what will be the new office, into that other room, and then I can get the office set up. But so it's funny trying to take into consideration trying to plan with moving. It's like, well, do I repaint the walls now, or do I just wait till it's emptied again and we have to move and I just paint everything before we set it back up? So I think that's what I'm going to do with some of the projects like that. I've got some really cool plans for the new office space once I get everything into there. It's going to make streaming a lot better. It's going to make filming a lot better, which is a key thing because filming space right now is non-existent. And then depending upon the day of the week lately, the past 2 days, there have been 6 kids in the house instead of 4. Lots of nephews. So that makes for fun with trying to move tanks, and impossible to film anything. You can't, I won't say you can't. I'm sure there are people that do it, and there are plenty of people that have 6 kids and go, that's nothing. I didn't sign up for that. I signed up for 2. So anything beyond that, especially little bitty ones, I'm like, mine are, one will be 9 in a couple weeks, and the other just turned 11. So they're a long way from little ones anymore. But it's got some big plans for the new office, so I'm excited about that. It's going to be fun.
Now,
Steel Slinger says Star Wars theme. Hey, I do love a Star Wars theme. Go ahead, buddy.
when have you investigated on how, like, who your mover will be, like transporting your place to the new location? Or
we don't have one nailed down yet. It's kind of which came first, the chicken or the egg? Because a lot of movers don't even seems like really want to do too much involved in a conversation until you have your permits, but you really kind of want to have your mover figured out and at least narrowed down while you're in the permitting process and how much it's going to cost. So a lot of them, it's like, well, you need a permit. Well, I know. We'll talk to us when you get that. But we're still looking into it. There are a lot of different companies, and we've got, just down the road from us, there's a huge mobile home company, but they also have a moving team as well. So I know there are a lot of options here in the Knoxville area. But if any of you all out there happen to know of an East Tennessee or nearby area mobile home mover, feel free to throw that out there. We'll be happy to talk to them. Absolutely. I saw that Texas Fish Room shirt on you. Texas Fish Room using his member super chat to say, nice shirt, Ed. That is a nice shirt, Ed. A little jealous. I don't have one of those. I need to get one of those. I'm just wearing forgot who it was even. Glass Cages Custom Aquariums. They gave me that shirt at the Orlando Aquashella, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I think so. We got it. Yeah. That's their Ben Ochart sponsor.
Yeah.
And he gave me one also, but I've got to lose, I think, another 45 pounds before. I'm not as a fiddle guy as James. So if I can get into James shape, I'll be doing good, and I'll be wearing my pastel tie-dye.
Oh, you're making me feel good, Ed. Now I can't say anything about my shape because then I feel bad like I'm saying something mean to you. But yeah, I'm a fit guy. But yeah, we're going with the tie-dye tonight. Rocking it. It's a comfortable shirt. It really is. Lady Diane says, I'm late for a very important date. Use the term member super chat. Been a member for 4 months now. Appreciate the love and support from all you awesome members out there. And thank y'all for hanging out with us tonight. MSC Aquatic says, I ordered a bunch of barbs for that tank I asked you about. I'm glad to hear that. MNC had, I don't know how much I'm supposed to share or not share. But I was asked my opinions on a potential setup, including regarding barbs, and I was like, yeah, I think that would be awesome. So I'm glad to hear that you ordered those barbs, and I'm looking forward to seeing what that tank turns out like, because I think it's going to be a very, very pretty tank.
That's awesome.
Steel Slinger says, oops, sorry, go ahead. No, I keep interrupting you tonight. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay, go ahead.
This is Glass Cages, amazing people, only place I can find the ship's frames to Canada. I don't know why I didn't think about that. I should talk to them about if they offer a trim option for my 220, because the top trim with double center brace is broken, which is part of what's taken so long to get that thing up and running, is potentially having to build my own support bracing. Oh, that's awesome to hear. Steel Slinger. Words are hard, and I'm not awake enough to use a lot of them, but I'll use the ones I can. All right. Oh, there we go.
Bunny Viper said she's going to be building caves for her Empire Gudgeons while she listens. On my stream, I'm going to be building caves, but I'm not going to tell you guys for what yet. You'll have to tune in, because it might be a fish you hate, but then it might be the fish that you love.
There you go. And that's coming up next in about 45 minutes. It's going to be a good time. Blue Rhino Games, always good to see you. Says, I've done for almost a year now, but my super red bristlenose pleco is a male. And should I get some more? And how would I go about breeding them? And when would they be ready to breed? So if you want to make little baby plecos, absolutely get some more. In terms of going about breeding them, they, in my experience, breed super, super easily. I mean, they very readily breed if you provide them with a cave and a male and a female. I would definitely do it. you can, I mean, there are all sorts of cave options. There's so many different pleco caves on the market nowadays. It's not even funny, which is amazing. I do oftentimes use the watering spikes. One of the things I was doing as I was moving fish tanks from room to room was I was gathering up and packing various aquarium items. And one of those things that I gathered up was all my pleco caves that are not being used. And I've got about 3 dozen pleco caves, but a lot of those are actually the watering spikes. If you're not familiar with them, I've talked about them several times before, but they are basically, they're designed to go in a planter for your plant, and you stick an empty wine bottle in there with, or a used wine bottle with water, and it waters your plants. But the shape of them seems to work really, really well for bristlenose, especially. I did a video, shameless plug. It's my secret to breeding plecos. I talked about them and I show them, and there's a link on there and all that stuff. It may be an affiliate link. I don't even remember if it is. I don't even think I have an affiliate account, but just legal disclaimer there. But check those out because they're really cheap, and you can get like an 8-pack of them for $20. So those work really well in terms of getting you set up, giving some different cave options for the plecos. And then I had a lot of good luck with feeding a diet of, of course, your typical wafers, but then green beans. Doesn't have to be fresh. They can be frozen. They can be canned. I always use the canned ones because I had a lot of plecos. But if you've only got a couple, you could do like Ed does, have a bag of frozen green beans, pop just a couple out, thaw them, stick them in there. Doesn't matter what brand they are. It doesn't matter if they're French cut or if they're whatever the cut is. I get that question a lot as well. There's a 10-pack for $22. Liquid Zoo just dropped a link. So
yeah, I like to take the biggest frozen beans I can get, and then I splice them down the middle, and then I drop them in there for my plecos. And the Goodiots like it. The Goodiots love to eat vegetation stuff, and then the snails like it too. So it's like a triple win.
Absolutely. And then the only other thing with diet that I do definitely recommend is getting some frozen brine shrimp in there, some bloodworms, some proteins, because that additional protein in the diet does help with egg development in the females. So that has always been kind of a winning combination for me. Steel Slinger says, honestly, I looked for months. They were the only ones that did frames. Can't get structural frames in Canada. All Canadian companies have gone out of business. Well, that's a bummer about the Canadian companies, but I am glad to hear that they had what you needed. I'm definitely going to have to reach out to them and see what we can make happen. Zen Ginger, thank you for dropping that link as well. And Blue Rhino Games says, which would be better, an actual pleco cave or some PVC? Honestly, and you don't even have to use those affiliate linked ones up there. Just find you some. But honestly, I would go with the watering spikes, because if you use PVC, amongst other issues, they really like to have the back end sealed off. They don't want a straight through cave. Plecos don't. Bristlenose don't. There are some plecos that do, but they're really few and far between. Most of them prefer to have a sealed off back of the cave. That way they can defend those eggs. The male can get in there over the eggs. He's got one entrance to defend, and he doesn't have to worry about it being an open cave. So if you are going to use PVC, then you need to buy caps, and you need to make sure nothing floats. And I just think for the price, the watering spikes are such an easy thing to do. I usually give them a rinse just to make sure there's no manufacturing process dust on them, and just toss them right in the tank, and you're good to go. And they're cheap.
I was at Lowe's today pricing PVC. It has like quadrupled in price. It is insane.
I believe it.
A 2-foot, 4-inch pipe, just 2 foot of it, was $25.
Ouch.
The caps that I bought and stuff today cost me about $25. And I was planning on buying 6, and I only bought 4 because I thought I was going to spend $2 a piece on them tops. It was like, wow, that sucks.
That does suck. It would be nice if some of these prices settled out on things, but I'm not holding my breath. It's kind of one of those, we've got to do what we've got to do. We don't really get a say in the matter, unfortunately, but it doesn't make it any easier.
I like how. Oh gosh, you just said that. Someone just said that PVC is the new copper, and he's so right. Darn it! I was. Well, whoever said it, say it again, because it was good.
Finn Winkle says, "I've got 2 batches of long fin super red babies from the ones Maria Z sent me. They love the green beans. Yes, I have found most plecos and a lot of other fish surprisingly will enjoy green beans, but the plecos will chow down on those things, and it's kind of fun to watch. Especially you get a tank full of babies, get some green beans in there, and you just got all these little baby plecos going nuts on them. It's a fun time. I always enjoyed that." Maria Z, if you're listening, that pleco food that you sent me forever and a day ago, that is awesome stuff. It really, really is. Like, I was taking my time to give an opinion on it. It's really, really good stuff. And I want to say thank you again for sending that out to me.
You know, while you mentioned Zen Ginger not too long ago, I've been looking for a fish for her for like 2 years, and I don't even know if she still wants this fish. But I finally found a connection of getting the fish. She said she really wanted trout goodians.
Mm-hmm.
And I found a breeder, and he told me when he's going to have them for sale, and I'm going to do my best to buy her a bag and me a bag.
Very nice. Very, very nice. That's awesome.
I don't know if she still wants those, but
it's funny how market and availability changes, I guess is the best way to put it. Especially if you look at over years, things that we could find all the time before that we don't really see anymore, and vice versa, things we didn't really see, and now they're easily, attainable. And then things that they're still just kind of out there on the fringes you got to hunt for. You're like, I'm really looking for one of these, and it takes a friend or a friend of a friend, and then a year or 2 years later, you track one down, and sometimes those are the most fun purchases. You're like, man, I've been looking for this fish for 3 years, and a buddy finally found it,
I've been searching. It only took me like 5 fish clubs, and I finally found the right fish club that has a guy. And
absolutely.
I'll give him my number. He's going to have them in the auction, but I'll be at Aquashella during their auction. So I'm going to give him my number, and maybe he can just make us a bag or something.
Heck yeah. Very cool. Blue Rhino Game says, what size tank would be best for breeding them, and would a 10-gallon tank work?
Oh, what was
that? That was for the super red bristledoes.
Oh.
You could do a 10-gallon. One thing I will say with the 10-gallon is you're going to be doing a lot of water changes to stay on top of water quality. If you go with the type of fast and furious feeding schedule that I do when I'm breeding the bristlenose and raising the little babies and all that, because there's a lot of food going into that tank, both when I'm getting them prepped for breeding. Also, once those babies are made, there's really a lot of food going into that tank. So there's a lot of waste being produced. So then you've got to have a really, really strong bacteria colony built up. And then even with that really strong bacteria colony built up, it's going to convert that stuff really quick, and you're going to be in for some water changes. If you can go bigger, I honestly would. I'm not saying you need to go huge, especially if you're just doing a pair or a reverse trio, which is often recommended, especially with the bristlenose. Reverse trio being 2 males and 1 female. But you could do it. My favorite's the 20 long for it. It really is. They don't need a lot of that upper area of the tank to swim in. It gives them the additional surface area at the bottom. It gives you double the water volume, so it's a lot easier to maintain safe parameters while aggressively feeding to breed and grow the babies. It just makes life easier. It also gives a little bit more territory, especially if you're getting into a reverse trio. And they recommend the reverse trio on the plecos because when you get a good male, he's going to want to defend those eggs and defend those babies. Oftentimes, the female can be ready to breed. Like as soon as he's ready to let that batch of babies go, she's ready to go again. It's not unheard of. It happens fairly often. The issue with that is while that male is hiding in the cave, protecting that clutch of eggs, protecting those wigglers, raising those babies, so to speak, he oftentimes won't eat. So I have seen cases where a male can get starved out just because the female is constantly laying eggs and he's constantly protecting them. And so he's not eating. So I have seen some malnourished males because of that. If you've got two males, a lot of times she can kind of rotate out, gives your males a chance to rest, which is funny because a lot of times maybe we're, resting the female fish to give her a chance to recoup and build up her, proteins and diet and all that stuff. But honestly, that's what I would look at doing. Were it me, I would try and get a reverse trio in a 20 long. That, it again, gives additional space territorially for them to have a couple different places to pick out caves and not be fighting all the time. Let your males rest in between eggs and potentially get you some more and better production of the babies. But yeah, you could do it in a 10-gallon. Short answer, you could. Make sure I didn't miss anything there. Go ahead, buddy.
I'm going to show my ignorance towards plecos because I just have not been a huge pleco guy over the years. Do they have the barbs on them, or can you catch them with a net, or will they get snagged in the barbs? Do they have the little barbs up here at their face or anything? Or
so yes and yes and yes.
Okay.
Yes, they do have barbs. Yes, you can catch them with a net, but if I really don't recommend it unless you don't have a choice, or you know what you're doing. I mean, honestly, a lot of times when it comes to my bristle nose, I just grab them by hand. Not everybody can do that. I have a gift, Mrs. Fever says. It's just hand catching fish. Maybe it's because I did that a lot when I was growing up as a kid.
James is amazing with breaking down tanks and putting them up, and all. James is just a master at the fish.
Got to be a master at something.
I've never seen a person break a tank down so fast. He was breaking down a 50-gallon tank and took everything out, all the fish, all the plants, took a photo of it, and rebuilt it in another place. But the whole time he was doing that, I only had a job to catch 50 baby convicts.
Yeah, I remember that.
And yes. I mean, I was catching them and they're jumping, yes. But by the time I got all these bagged, all 50, he was done with the whole 50-gallon tank or 40-gallon tall. I don't know what it was, but it was still pretty amazing. I was just blown away.
Well, thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. So yeah, I don't really recommend using a net. They do have, and I saw freshwater ichthyology in there, dropping the science. Yeah, they do have the I can't tell. I'm not awake. I'm going to bed. Good night. Yes, they have the little spiky things. The bristlenose in particular, when you're looking at plecos, they have right here these things that puff out of their neck, for lack of the proper terminology. And they're just like giant spike balls. I think it's the best way to find it. And those get stuck in nets so easily. So I really recommend using some sort of collection cup. I use the Aquarium Co-op specimen containers. Shout out to them. # not sponsored. They sent me a bunch of those after I had bought some. They sent me the updated ones that were had their branding on it.
You know what?
I think are nice.
I was gonna show one off tonight. And nice. I was gonna say, in this episode, sponsored because they gave me this for free.
Right? Yeah, it's weird to the legalities of what you have to disclose and not disclose and all that stuff. It's so dumb sometimes, but
well, I don't think that Corey would be upset if we didn't say we sponsored us.
Yeah. I know, but YouTube's a crazy place legally in terms of what you have to disclose.
Yeah.
But enough of that. To answer the question, yes, there is this definite danger of getting them stuck in the net. I have been dealing with them for a long time, and I've dealt with a lot of them. Because a lot of times I'll just hand catch them, but if it's a bunch of like little babies or something, I will use a net oftentimes. I try and find the coarsest net that I can use. Definitely don't use those white, like brine shrimp nets that are super, super, they have a very fine porosity to them, and the material as well is just like really smooth. They'll get hung up in those so bad as well. They can get hung up in those so bad it's not even funny. And a lot of times they don't want to let go or can't let go of that net. So it is better to try and collect them with some sort of cup or container or thing like that. You can get it in the tanks oftentimes and then kind of chase them into it, bring it out. That works really well. So I don't recommend using a net to catch bristlenose plecos if you're not very adept at it and know how to get them untangled if they do happen to get in there. It's easier around all the way around for everybody. Sorry, Ed, go ahead, buddy.
Well,
Now
this
back
was my
to you.
question about the bristlenose babies.
Mm-hmm.
How would you feel about using? Have you seen those plasticky type shrimp nets? That they're just a little round or square, but they're like almost a plastic weave. Would that be safe for catching the babies?
That should be. The babies, I honestly have not had nearly the issue, and I feel much safer with using a net to catch them. Because I do have some of those small shrimp nets, but they're not that plasticky or that rubberized net. They're still just kind of standard netting. And I've used those frequently.
Okay.
Without issue on the smaller ones. Now we're talking probably an inch and a half or an inch to inch and a half. Being max size before I start to really worry about it, just because I've not had any issues with them, and I'm not in there trying to hand wrangle, a bunch of little babies. Plus, those guys are easy to smush, and you don't want to do that. So I have definitely used a net for that. I'm with Joe Coffey there, and that's what I do a lot of times. Catch the babies before they exit the cave. If I know I'm going to have to move some babies, which I did a lot of the times when I was breeding, I would go ahead and get the babies out of the main breeding tank and raise them separately in a 10-gallon. Again, keep in mind lots of filtration if you're going to do that, lots of water changes. But I would do just like Joe Coffey is saying. I'd get them while the dad still had them all wrangled up in that pleco cave, watering spike, and then I would get them all out of there into a specimen container, put him back, and move them where I wanted them, and it would be good to go. Blue Rhino says, catch the pleco while they're in their pleco caves. Yep, exactly. It definitely makes life a lot easier. I'm trying to think of the last time that I can't really think of the last time I needed to use a net to catch bristlenose, because between catching them in the tank and just being able to kind of corner them and hand catch them, I've used it for other fish. Somebody's going to yell at me because I moved Cory cats with a net yesterday. I know that's a no, but it's okay.
They're so hard to catch.
I've done it before. I don't catch those guys by hand. They're pokey little boogers.
They are.
And nobody got harmed. But those are another one that can have a tendency to get kind of snagged up in nets.
When I do them, I just take everything out of the tank, and then I herd them.
Yeah.
Into a corner and try to get them caught into a specimen container. But you stick the specimen container, like I even put dirt over it, so it looks like they think they're still staying on their thing, and then I just try to herd them in and then pull them up. And I drain the water off to about this. That's how bad of a fish catcher I am. I drain the water to about 4 inches to catch my Cory cats. And I've got about 6 Cory cats that need to be relocated to another tank right now, because I'm going to start to try to breed them, and I want to put them all together into one giant colony.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I did with the Exodons, the Exodon Paradoxus. I just drained the water down so there was about that much left. Those guys are jumpy. I don't know if you remember when we got those from Lucas.
Oh, that was so much fun.
Those guys are jumpers. It is ridiculous. So I drained it way down. I only had about that much water in a 5-gallon bucket to keep them from jumping out, because that's the second problem, is you manage to catch them out of the tank they're trying to jump out of. They want to jump out of the bucket. But I did have to do that. I drained it way down just to try and keep them from jumping.
You could have got real drunk and then put your hand in there and just let them chew on it, and then they'd all pass out after they drink enough blood.
Just give it a little nibble. Freshwater ichthyology says I've had a number particularly hyperincistrous, which won't leave the cave, and had to sell them with the cave and bag them with it. Yeah, that's funny. A lot of times it can be hard to get those guys out of a cave. They get in there and they don't want to come out. Still Slinger says, you guys got the small bristles. Try an 8-inch common pleco. 8-inch common pleco, 18-inch common pleco. Those are the ones that I go for by hand. They're just so much easier to do than trying to chase them down with a net and keep them in a net and worry about them getting hung up in a net. I don't know. There's something that makes you feel alive when you got this massive common pleco and you just got to kind of grab it and put it in here. Fun stuff. You roll through here. I don't think I missed anything. Yes, hands. LOL says Steel Slinger. Yep, that's a hand catcher right there. I don't recommend hand catching piranha. Doesn't usually go well. So I will put that disclaimer out there. Tim M, how's it going? Good to see you. Appreciate you being here. Says stocking question. I've got a 75-gallon freshwater tank stocking with a lot of guppies, mollies, tetras, and 2 angelfish. Pleco, what are your thoughts and opinions? Thank you, guys. I'll read that again for Ed there. The stocking is lots of guppies, mollies, tetras, 2 angelfish. And I guess because there's a period after that says Pleco, ... What are your thoughts and opinions? Thank you, guys. Maybe what Pleco are we suggesting for that? First off, the stocking sounds amazing. But to you, Ed, what are your thoughts?
Was it platies or mollies?
Guppies, mollies, tetras, and 2 angelfish.
I probably wouldn't put mollies and guppies together because your boy guppies are going to tick off the girl mollies and probably get destroyed. I mean, it may not happen, but it could happen because those girl mollies can be kind of aggressive. So I've seen them tear up their own, a boy molly. So that'd be my only fear would be mollies and guppies together. But and your angels will keep the numbers down, so they'll be hunting the babies, so that won't be bad. I mean, like elementary schools that have guppies, if they have like one, in like their library or something for the kids to watch, it's great to throw a big old angelfish or 2 in there just to kind of keep the population down. So I don't have any problem with having an angel or 2 in there. So yeah, I think it'd be pretty fun.
Absolutely. In terms of a pleco, and those are all very valid points, great points, Ed. I would go with something a little different. I think you were asking for pleco opinion there, the way that was the punctuation fell and it was phrased. I would look at something gold nugget, sultan, kind of mid-price range pleco, if you will. Not super expensive. It's something that doesn't get huge, 75-gallon tank. But those could be some really pretty fish. And they're not something that at least I see a ton of people doing. Usually the people that are doing those are the pleco guys, and they've got a bunch of different plecos. But I honestly don't see a lot of the variety plecos, if you will, going into everyday hobbyist tanks as that finishing fish, that final showpiece or whatever, if you will. So I would look into a couple of those, kind of look around, find something that you like. I mean, that's the big thing. Yeah. Understanding like that
snowball.
I do love snowballs.
The snowballs are so pretty. The gold nuggets, if you don't want the white, you can go with the yellow spots.
Yeah.
A vampire one will make, if you have kids, the vampire one will make the little boys at least all excited to say they got a vampire fish in there. Yeah. You just say it sleeps during the day, and then the phantoms are awesome too, blues and greens.
Definitely. Look at who let this guy in here. KG Tropicals, Mr. KeepFishKeeping.com himself in the house. Says, sorry for stepping on y'all's toes again. Will I be seeing your beautiful faces in Dallas, James and Ed? First off, brother, you're not stepping on my toes, John. You know that, but I do very much appreciate it. And I know that you feel bad sometimes. But no hard feelings. Never worry about it. You do what you need to do, and we do what we need to do. And that's the way the world should work. But yes, you'll be seeing us in Dallas. Our beautiful faces. You know
Bird
I've got to
faces.
come. Yeah, bird faces. You know I've got to come harass you at the Aquashellas. You know I've got to. But again, a huge thank you for the send over. Never an issue with the quote unquote stepping on the toes. I don't feel that way, so don't worry about it. But very much appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again. I'm going to catch you on Fortnite sooner or later there, buddy.
He has some great videos out. I've been really enjoying his videos of the move and stuff. Like one of them was when they're pouring the concrete in the place, and that was so cool. And then I watched one today where they were all moving his tanks in, and he's got one of his daughter's fiancés is a Marvel guy, and one's a DC guy. He's got a Captain America and a Superman. So that'll make some interesting Christmases.
Absolutely. Sorry, my chat jumped on me here, so I'm trying to get back to where I was. There was a question about substrate for that Super Red Bristlenose Pleco breeding tank. I honestly would go bare bottom. It just makes life so much easier, in my opinion, to keep it bare bottom. It's easy to get all that waste out of there because, again, when I'm breeding those bristlenose in particular, I'm aggressively feeding. They're producing lots of waste. So if you've got, a standard gravel substrate in there, it really can get packed full of poo. And that's the last thing you want. And if you've got a whole bunch of babies in there, it makes it about impossible to try and gravel back in. So if you've got a bare bottom, it just makes life so much easier for you. It makes for a healthier tank in that particular instance. But what I would do is supplement it with, some driftwood and things. You could even do a plant in a pot if you wanted to, or a couple of them. Do some floating plants in there is what I like to do. Things that can still help try and keep that natural flow going with the biology of the tank. But I am a huge fan of the bare bottom tanks when it comes to breeding bristlenose in particular.
Now, do bristlenose need any wood to gnaw on?
I always keep wood in there for them. Always keep wood in there for them. You would be surprised at how much wood those guys will tear through.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, but I don't know if that person knew about the wood because it's kind of an insider trick that people need to know.
It is. All right, I did miss something. There we go. And there it went. Blue Rhino was asking, can you put small non-aggressive fish in there while they're breeding? Yes, you definitely can. That doesn't really seem to have any effect. Just keep in mind you've got a situation that you're potentially already packing a lot of food into. So I would try and keep it in line with something that's at least going to eat off of some of what you're feeding those bristlenose, like the frozen brine shrimp and stuff like that, so that you're not having to add an additional type of food into the tank, therefore creating an additional mess and potentially uneaten stuff, even though it kind of is a cycle of everybody trying to eat everything in most cases. Just don't put anything in there that requires a specialty diet, if you will, and it kind of works itself right into the cycle. If it's a little non-aggressive fish, shouldn't bother the plecos at all. Plecos shouldn't mess with it. Everything should go fine and it should be a happy life. I mean, I've bred plecos and guppies in the same tank before. So, that just to answer your question, yeah, you could definitely have some little fish in there as well.
Yep. My dad, he for years in the 70s bred fancy guppies and cory cats in the same tank. Or tanks. I mean, all his tanks were filled with guppies and cory cats.
Definitely. And that's a very common thing, especially when you get into maybe not enough tank space or trying to consolidate things. You're like, okay, what can I put together so that I don't have to have 2 tanks or 3 tanks to do all these breeding projects? And it's always fun to look at like the breeding for profit tanks. It's like, well, I'm going to have plants and I'm going to have this fish and I'm going to have that fish. It's like, well, I can do plants and guppies and bristlenose, and have things work well.
All of it was bare bottom too.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know a lot of people don't like it, but especially and particularly for breeding projects, I am a huge fan of the bare bottom tanks. Cat Hair Crafts been a member for 18 months using the member super chat there. Says, love the show. Well, we love you loving the show. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your support as a member. If you didn't see it already, go check it out if you want to. If not, you don't have to. I did post a little video for the members a couple of days ago showing kind of some of what's going on, some of the upcoming projects and videos that are in the making. I saw maybe about half the members saw it, which I know usually means the other half never got a notification about it. From what I've learned over the years, is that typically if only half the members saw it, the other half are like, what do you mean? I didn't get told about it. So I'm letting y'all know that is out there for you awesome members. And I love you guys. Sorry, Ed. I know I interrupted you and kept on.
Oh, it's okay.
My apologies. Go for it.
Oh, when I was over at that master breeder, Mitchell Broomer, I believe that's his name, Mitchell Broomer. I was over at his house last weekend down in Atlanta. He had 150 tanks. What was really neat is he had the same garland my dad used to keep back in the 70s. He was using Christmas garland for his fish breeding.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I haven't seen it for like decades, and then he has it all over, and he said he just can't keep enough moss up, so he uses it as moss. Pretty cool.
That is awesome. That really is. Blue Rhino Games, and I gotta say, I'm loving the questions, Blue Rhino. I enjoy answering questions from everybody, but I do really enjoy it when we get one person in particular that's like on a project and they're like seeking answers and trying to find stuff out. So I'm really having a good time talking to you about this specific setup, and I'll be looking forward to hearing about it once you get it set up. But Blue Rhino said, can you breed a calico with a super red and get both, or would they mix? Genealogy, the dominant, and all that, when it comes to plecos, is extremely interesting and extremely fascinating for me. I had, and I've got a couple other people I haven't talked to lately, but we used to talk a lot about what we had and what we bred and how it bred out. I don't know exactly what you would get in terms of numbers with the recessive and the dominant genes in there. Somebody might with the calico and super red. I'm not honestly sure out of the two. I'll put it to you like this. I had a pair of just standard run-of-the-mill short fin, just the black bristlenose plecos, male and female. They were just your plain old everyday plecos. Every single batch of eggs dropped 30% albinos. Every single batch. It was the weirdest thing. The first time I thought it was fluke, and I'm like, maybe there was another one around. Consistently, batch after batch. It got to where I had different pairs, and I kind of learned exactly what each pair was going to drop. But you would have never known it from just looking at them. I had albinos that were from that batch. And so anytime I would sell them, I would always preface with the parents were not albino bristlenose, So I have no clue, in all honesty, exactly what you get numbers wise on calico versus super red. I will tell you this though, if you're going to breed them, I would honestly, because you've just got a male. I would honestly just go with keeping as best you can a pure line of super reds and trying to work them more to red. So as you see some that are maybe more red than the others, and just keep working on that, and just trying to refine that line that way. Unless you're wanting to like try and do something else, if you're just looking at it of, well, I want to breed some plecos, I want to try and make some money, I've got a super red, I would definitely work the super red. Super reds are one of those that tend to have a decent price to them no matter where they are. People always seem to want the super reds. The other thing you could do is try and work on long fin versus short fin varieties. That's something else you can play around with some. But I always found it fascinating to see what type of babies I would get from different plecos. And sometimes you don't know until they breed. You don't, unless you have that lineage and you have that line kind of, or have had that line in your possession. It's hard to say what you're going to get. I see some super stickers, some super chats over there. I hope I hadn't bypassed them, but just in case I have, I'm going to grab this other screen here. Finwiggles, thank you so very much. You know we love you. Thank you for the love and support. That $10 super sticker with that cute little fox hugging the heart. I love it. You hug my heart every week, and I appreciate you for it. Our buddy Fantastic Freaks, $2 super chat there. Thank you so much, Austin. Always a pleasure to have you here. Excuse me. Says, be fantastic. Hit that like button, Fish Fam. Absolutely. Stay fantastic, my friend. Thank you for all the support, Austin. Fantastic Freaks. Always a great guy. Always glad to have him in here. There you go. Smash that like button if you're having a good time. If you've hung around this long, which about 100 of you have, or as John would say, we've got 17,000 people here right now. If you hung around this long, smash that like button. Let YouTube know we're not that bad. It may be a little rough, but it's not that bad, okay? No, seriously, I appreciate you, Austin. Fantastic Freaks. And all y'all hanging out with us here. Very, very cool of you. We still got about 7 or 8 minutes left before we roll on over to Crafted with Chattanooga Ed to talk about his secret fish that he refused to disclose.
Amanda Baker wants to know any advice for folks preparing for and maintaining time away from their fish room. Figured I must have known something about it because I just had my surgery. Well, that's a great question because I did have to do a lot of prep before my fish room. I changed all my water. I did about 50% water changes the day before my surgery because I knew it was going to be about 4 to 6 weeks before I was allowed to just go downstairs. And I couldn't raise my hands over my head. So it makes it pretty hard when you got fish tanks on a top row. But I'm blessed to have a wonderful dad, and he kept them fed every day for me. And I had him top off a few tanks. He said they were getting a little low, so I'd have him top them off. And what I did was I had a big empty tub, and I prepared the water in it. So whenever he needed to top off any tank, he could just dip it. I actually used my Zist brine thing, and I hung it off the thing so he could just scoop water out of that and pour it into whatever tanks. And all I had him doing was frozen foods and flakes. I guess I had a few other different foods that what I did was I put Post-its and I stuck it on each tank so he knew exactly what to put in there, how many times a day, so, and he did an amazing job, super good, and it kept all my fish alive. So, but if I'm going away on vacation for a week, I used to take Ziploc bags and fill the food in each Ziploc bag and then stick it to the tanks, and they would know what day to pour it in because it was like my neighbor would come over. So for 1 week, it's okay. But for like over a month, you really need somebody that's willing to just take it over and give them some basics. But I didn't want him cleaning filters, doing any of that. We had a couple emergencies, but nothing major.
I think just to add on to what you said, I think the biggest mistake I've seen people make in terms of planning time away from the fish room is overfeeding right as they leave. Like, I'm going to dump a ton of food in right before I go out the door. That is a great way to spike your tank and throw off your levels very, very quickly. So I would definitely avoid that. Like you said, a week away, unless it's like fry, little baby fish, I really don't know of many fish that cannot handle a week without food. A lot of them go through that when they're getting shipped into the country. I mean, it's not uncommon whatsoever.
Or when you're mailing them in the mail, because you're okay. Let's just say Dan's fish. He's gonna fast them for 2 days before he ships them, and it might be another 3 before it gets to your house. So that's 5 days they've gone, and they're as healthy. They aren't emaciated or anything. I mean, they're hungry when you throw them in their tank, and it looks cute to feed them. But yeah, now the reason why I do have mine fed while I'm on vacation is if I have a lot of fry, because I'm always doing guppies, so they will eat all their babies, you know, because it's food just swimming in circles and you're hungry. So, but yeah, James is
morsels.
100% right with the big fish.
Blue Rhino was asking the same question for breeding short with longfin. Honestly, you've really just got to get in there and give it a try. And I saw freshwater ichthyology after that. I'm glad to know I'm not the only one. She's confirmed. She says no one is actually sure of any of the genetic influence of coloration in the common bristlenose, because it's certainly more than dominant recessive or even co-dominant. Glad to know it's not just me who's out of the loop on it. I've always found it fascinating, but I've never been able to find anybody that had it nailed down, and I guess I know why. There was one more question about driftwood. I don't see it, but we're also running out of time. But the question was essentially, can I use driftwood for my local waterway? And yes, given that I have 2 minutes to wrap this up, I will say go check out a couple videos on how people treat driftwood. I would make sure you thoroughly soak it. I would probably even sunbake it after that, just to make sure. The biggest issue you run into with pulling driftwood in from the wild is bringing in contaminants, bringing in pathogens, bringing in little nuisance pests. You know, did you get some of those murderous dragonfly larvae on there? Is there something you can't see that you brought in on it? So that's one of the places where I really tend to go the extra mile with ensuring that it's either completely dried out or completely boiled out. Sometimes both. I just saw somebody did a great video on it, and I wish I could remember who it was. There are quite a few really good videos out there about it.
I think I have a video on some that I did. I know I showed how I mount it to the slate, but I think I videotaped me soaking it, because I soaked it for a long time, and I used the that stuff you pour in, a peroxide.
The hydrogen peroxide?
Hydrogen peroxide. I used that first, and then I air bleached it.
Yeah.
Or sun bleached it.
I'm a big fan of using the good old H2O2 3% solution. It's good stuff. Killer Kitty 08. Not to be left out of the loop. Throwing down that $2 super sticker. Thank you so much, Killer Kitty, with that little #1 box. I love it, and I appreciate it. I really, really do. Never expected, but always very much appreciated. Thank you all so much for the love and support. Keeping the lights turned on, keeping the air pump running, and the filters going. Blue Rhino Games says, how would I go about breeding African cichlids? I will tell you now, and I have always been very much upfront about this. I am not the African cichlid guy. I understand the process, but I'm not the one to do it. Not the one to tell you about it, because it's not my thing. That, and I have 45 seconds. But
tune into my episode, and I'll tell you how I did it.
Yeah, tune into Ed's episode, and we'll talk about it some more, because I don't want to run over his time. But he can tell you how he did it. Mrs. Fever's the African cichlid person, and always has been. That has been, when people are like, well, how do I get the Mrs. or the Mr. into the hobby? That was her thing, and so I left it alone, because I'm very much, when I'm working on something, I'm used to like being a regional manager, being a store manager, being the training manager. I'm a very much take charge of process type of person, for better or worse. So I stay away from that process that's hers, because if I get into it, I will ruin it. And I want her to have her own things and do them her own way and enjoy them. So I very much stayed hands off, and just admired her pretty fish in my tanks. But yeah, go on over to Crafted with Chattanooga Ed, and he'll be happy to tell you how he did it. And I know we've got a lot of people doing African cichlids. I think I caught all the super chats and super stickers. I don't see anything missed over on the other screen. I think we got all the highlighted questions and comments, which is great. That was the point of tonight, not having a main topic, since last week we got so horribly behind. As always, Ed, a huge thank you for being here. I think he doesn't have it scheduled for about 15 minutes, but that's just because I like to talk a lot and run over. But we're going to head straight over there once we leave here. So don't worry, you're not going to have to wait 15 minutes for that to fire off. Xanadu coming in at the last minute there, been a member for 18 months. Team Bristle knows. Thank you so much. Xanadu says, thanks as always. Love your streams, FRF. Brother, I love you. I appreciate your support. Thank you for using that membership milestone. Super chat, being a member. Again, Ed, thank you for being here, buddy. All of the, everybody knows what's next, moderators, members, lurkers, listeners, super chatters, contributors, questioners, commentators, and of course the replay crew. I love you guys. Until next time, keep your fish healthy. Keep yourselves healthy. Don't be afraid to catch yourself a little fish room fever. Take care. We love you.